I think you talked about it the other day. A lot of folks were talking about that Carville article where he talked about
roll over and play dead.
Roll over. In essence, he said that. I think it was a strategic retreat, right? That we need to come back. Trump's starting to implode. His numbers are getting soft. This was even before the tariff issues, et cetera. And then come back and strike when hot. And I immediately, no BS, thought about you, who's just 24/7 flooding the zone, owning this space, every day getting a convert, every day picking up 1, 2, 10,000 folks, continuing the momentum, coming out of this damn election. And then I'm thinking about, we're going to stand back and watch you run circles around us for 6 months, the next 2 or 3 years, waiting for the moment to finally strike. Struck me as not necessarily the best advice, and it's not a knock on Carville, who I have deep respect for. What's your thoughts?
But that's okay. So I don't have to. He's right about one thing in the last 40 years. It's economy stupid, and boy, he spent down that one line pretty amazingly. Yeah, I hope you guys retreat.
You kind of like the
more
advice.
For us.
You like the advice.
There's no opposition. There's no activist spark. You guys are posting these cringe videos on social media.
What are the videos? What are the ones that
I don't know.
This
Cringy?
like
harmonious thing of like 22 senators all saying the same thing.
Didn't like that, yeah.
I didn't like it. Go ahead. Go do more of that.
What do you do?
Please.
What do you do? Seriously, Charlie Kirk, give us some advice.
Get better ideas, Governor.
Do you guys know some of the things Charlie Kirk has said? Some of the vile things that he said, some of the racist things that he said, some of the homophobic things that he said. And I think, did I say Talking Points USA? It's Turning Points USA, sorry. He is a provocateur. He uses race to reach Gen Z. I don't know if you guys remember, can we find the Black Pilot's comments? Remember that? Talking about DEI. He is one of those people who has this strange idea of what DEI actually is, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about greasy Gavin Newsom, who is facing a whole lot of backlash from liberals and Democrats over some comments that he made on his podcast with Charlie Kirk. Yes, Democrats are now launching podcasts because they believe that the issue with their party is not their policies, right? It's not the fact they're too extreme. Or who knows, maybe Gavin Newsom does believe that. We'll get into that in a minute. But they need to flood the zone, right? They need to get on podcasts, okay? They need to dominate alternative media, okay, in the podcast airways like right-wing media, okay? Now, again, Democrats don't understand, or at least for a majority of them, they don't understand that the problem is not that you're not on enough podcasts, right? That's not the issue. The problem is that your party is extreme as hell. And who knows, maybe Gavin Newsom has actually picked up on that because in this podcast episode with Charlie Kirk, he is basically going to admit that the issue of boys competing against girls, okay, boys in girl sports, transgender women, transgender girls in girl sports is an issue of fairness, okay, which apparently is something that really pissed off liberals and Democrats. But I want to go ahead and roll this clip of this exchange that Charlie Kirk and Gavin Newsom had when it comes to this issue of transgender women in women's sports. Take a look.
Right. You're talking to me about people. Yeah. So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, right. that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness. So it's deeply unfair.
Would you speak out against this young man, A.B. Hernandez, who right now is going to win the state championship in the long jump?
Boy, did I saw how you guys were able to weaponize that issue at another level.
Not weaponize. Don't. That's
well, weaponize may be pejorative. You're right, but you were able to
shine a light on,
highlight it in a way that, frankly, there are not that many out. We're talking about, I think, NC2A, what, 510,000? No, but I just didn't realize.
It's 890 medals and trophies that we know of in the last 5 years. That's a lot.
No, so let me step back, say completely fair on the issue of fairness. I completely agree. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed on the issue?
No, I get it.
At the same time, deal with the unfairness.
So
Yeah, so notice how Gavin Newsom didn't totally commit when Charlie Kirk asked him directly, okay, and very, very, very precisely, would you commit to not allowing men and women's sports? And what he said in response was, I agree with you that it is an issue of fairness. He didn't really say that he commits to banning men and women's sports. He didn't really say that, but he basically is trying to thread the needle, okay? But the answer that Gavin Newsom gave was basically a better answer on this issue than any other Democrat is willing to give, okay? Because for a Democrat to admit something as basic as, yes, it is an issue of fairness, apparently that is a long way, right, for a Democrat to go. That's how extreme they are on this issue. And you know that because the Democrats are pissed, okay? Liberals are pissed off with what Gavin Newsom said, and he's getting a whole lot of backlash. And you have Democrat leaders like Hakeem Jeffries. He's being confronted about Newsom's comments. Take a look.
I want to ask about California Governor Gavin Newsom's comments saying that Democrats were in the wrong for allowing transgender athletes to compete in female and girls sports. What is your response to that after Democrats had opposed the women and girls in sports?
I haven't seen his comments. What Democrats opposed was unleashing sexual predators on girls throughout the United States of America.
And back here in California, new at noon, Governor Gavin Newsom facing backlash over comments made on his new podcast. The debut episode featured Charlie Kirk, who leads a conservative organization called Turning Point USA. Now, during the 75-minute conversation, the governor suggested Democrats were in the wrong by allowing transgender athletes to participate in female sports. Well, California's legislative LGBTQ caucus blasted the governor's comments, writing in a statement, quote, "Sometimes Gavin Newsom goes for the profile and courage, sometimes not." We woke up profoundly sickened and frustrated by these remarks. Well, the governor says his new podcast is going to focus on frank conversations with Republicans as well as members of his own party. We're going to have much more on this story coming up on CBS 13 News at 5 o'clock.
Gavin Newsom, I'm not even going to ask you why the you decided to have Charlie punk-ass Kirk as your first guest on your little raggedy-ass podcast. It's very clear that where the battle lines are drawn, your ass is the ops. We see what you're doing. I'm picking what you're doing, trying to be Elon Musk Jr., return to work shit. Now you got Charlie Kirk on your motherfucking podcast. And I know the gaslighting y'all gonna try to play, oh, well, we gotta talk to the other side. You don't have to platform a motherfucking piece of shit like Charlie Kirk. You don't have to do that. And then you sit up here kicking with him and normalizing him, talking about how people in your family are fans of his, and you co-signing half the shit this motherfucker saying. That shit's disgraceful. But you know what? We see you. We see you. And we got long memories, honey. I know that Donald Trump and all the motherfucker kind of shit, don't think we're going to forget. And I know that y'all probably think that you're going to put New Hampshire and Iowa and all the white states back to the front of the bus and put the black states in the back of the bus. And so it won't make a difference. But go ahead and throw your motherfucking out in with the Charlie Kirks, the Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk fans and see how that gets your ass to the goddamn White House in 2028. It seems to be that you really believe that that's the path to the White House, even though we haven't seen that for a Democrat in how many decades. There's no room in a coalition for Charlie Kirk and the blacks. And you've chosen a side.
It is absolutely fuck Gavin Newsom, because it has and always will be. Fuck this piece of human garbage, Charlie Kirk, and every single other transphobic reactionary who grifts off of the anger of the white American populace by scapegoating transgender people with a whole bunch of lies. Because they know they can. Because transgender people are such a small percentage of the population that most people don't actually know someone who's transgender. So most of the Republican base, most of his audience, most of rural white America doesn't know any better and just believes them when they make up all of these lies in order to scapegoat transgender people. But here's the thing, women, especially women of California, voting age women of California, All right, it does not ever stop at transgender people. It won't stop there because they are our scapegoat. They are not the actual cause of any of the problems wrong with America right now. Not with American society, not with the American economy, not with any of the things that conservatives are actually and justifiably frustrated with, that there are actual real problems with.
California, we're in danger. We are in danger. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised one bit. This is why I don't trust anyone in politics, because they will show you their true colors. Go look up who Gavin Newsom had an interview with. Go look up what he said, and now he's flipping. I'm not even shocked. But to platform that man he sat down with is crazy. Like, oh, okay. Noted, Gavin Newsom. Noted. And again, not shocked, because some of the things that he was doing and supporting, the writing has been on the wall. But yeah, you think California is a safe place?
Just a suggestion for my left of center friends out there. Don't let yourself get pulled into an argument about trans people and fairness in sports. I just saw some people are really upset that Gavin Newsom was on a podcast with Charlie Kirk and entertaining some of these, ridiculous arguments around trans people in sports. Here's the thing. If you are dragged into that argument, you're in the wrong argument. You've been fooled, basically. This is how a lot of anti-trans people draw otherwise well-meaning people into their anti-trans hatred.
Charlie Kirk was invited to Gavin Newsom's podcast, where Gavin asked Charlie for his opinion about trans athletes. Gavin agreed with Charlie, saying trans athletes competing in sports is, quote, deeply unfair. This shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because Gavin is simply a neoliberal shill raised by the Getty oil family, who's again using the gay umbrella for his own selfish political ends.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Okay, now, before I get into my thoughts on the liberal outrage, I have to play this clip because it really kind of drives home my point about how I think the liberal outrage is misguided, but it's actually a great thing that it's misguided for conservatives. It basically guarantees that the Democrats are not going to be a party of sanity come 2028. But I want to play this clip because Gavin Newsom, what he's doing here is that he's playing a political game, right? He's trying to pretend to be a centrist or a moderate. He's trying to move to the right on certain issues that Democrats are unpopular on, okay? That's what he's trying to do. But when it comes to his actual record, he will never be able to escape what he did to California with legislation that he has signed.
You signed a law where school districts can't even tell parents if their kids are trans.
Not true.
Okay,
Factually untrue.
Okay, then
no, they can. They just can't get fired for not doing that. And it wasn't just trans.
Fired for not.
The law was explicit. Said you can't be fired for not snitching on a kid, not just for being trans, for being gay. And my point is, how in the hell?
But shouldn't the parents know?
They have every.
Wait, is telling parents snitching?
No, the teachers themselves have the right. The law is they can do that. They can do that. We're not saying you can't do that. We're saying you shouldn't be fired if you choose not to say Johnny was talking about liking some other boy or something. That's a charitable reading. The other
it's
not charitable. It's actually the freedom not to.
Let me tell you
snitch.
the other way to say this: that a teacher, of course, should be fired if you don't notify a parent of what's happening to their kid. Of course, they should be terminated for that.
If on health and safety, shouldn't they be teaching? I want these kids to teach. I want these teachers to teach. And by the way, if they feel like the health or safety of their kid, they have a responsibility to communicate. They still can. By the way, we're not telling these teachers they can't. We're saying they won't be fired if they don't look around and say in the recess there were two boys. Why didn't you see that? You're fired. You should have said something because they're talking about
two different things. But there, of course, should be a penalty measure, whether it be termination or whatever, if a teacher withholds information from a parent. Because what you're saying is that there's no way to hold them accountable. So you're saying you're
accountable to what though?
The
Accountable
parents,
to two kids talking about the fact that
this is
talking about subject matter. All of a sudden now we have to have teachers policing
I think,
speech or conversations.
I think you would even agree,
having.
Governor, that is an over extreme example. What we're talking about.
No, but the extreme example. This was a solution in search of a problem.
What we're talking about is if, which happens a lot, unfortunately, is if a young girl says that, hey, I want to transition, and the teacher accommodates and affirms it, and the parent doesn't even know. I have met parents like that in the state.
I heard Trump, and then they come back and they're a boy or something. There's so much extreme rhetoric
I will
in this
say,
space.
and we don't have.
Yeah, so you see there, you heard that. Now, again, this is a fascinating conversation. Because even when Democrats are trying to be moderate, they can't be moderate because they're not moderate, right? Gavin Newsom is an extremist, okay? He has signed into law some of the most extreme laws when it comes to the woke agenda. So he can't run away from his actual record, right? Which is why Charlie Kirk called him out on his actual record, which, again, is very extreme on this issue. And Gavin Newsom doesn't think that it's extreme. That's the problem with Gavin Newsom in this little pivot that he's doing, because what he essentially tried to argue is that, well, we can't fire teachers for not snitching on their kid. But see, what he doesn't understand is that that is an extreme stance. Let me give you an example. If I was a father, and I hope one day I do become a father, and I'm praying to God that I have a son. If I have a son, and my son is kissing another boy at school, and the teacher knows about it, and the teacher refuses to inform me that my son is gay, the teacher should be fired. I'm going to be pissed off at the teacher, okay? I think that should be a fireable offense. If a teacher sees a student engaged in any type of sexual relations, I think that it makes sense for the teacher to inform the parent that, hey, your child is participating in this type of behavior at school. Okay. Even if my son was kissing a girl, right? Same thing. But especially, I really want to know, again, if my son is gay. I definitely want to know. Okay. So, if a teacher withholds that information, I think that they're complicit, to be honest with you. Okay. As the left says, silence is violence, right? You are complicit because you're not telling me, okay? But again, Gavin Newsom thinks that, it's not extreme to not hold teachers accountable for withholding information that parents should know about their children. Like, come on now, right? I mean, do people understand how extreme this can get? Okay, we're not just talking about, kissing or whatever. We're talking about other things as well too, right? If a child does something that is, inappropriate, okay, or if they're doing things on campus that are inappropriate that children shouldn't be doing, okay, beyond just kissing, yeah, the parents should know. The teacher should not withhold that information. If they're withholding that type of information, that's a problem. That's a huge problem, okay? If the school is withholding that information, that is a problem, okay? Parents have the right to know what their children are doing at school, okay, if they're engaged in inappropriate behavior. So, again, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to the extremism of the Democrats. Even when they try to pivot, they still don't realize that they're extreme. That's how far left they are. Now, what Gavin Newsom is trying to do is that he's trying to move to the middle because we know that he wants to run for president. Okay, he's definitely going to try to run for president in 2028. But again, the problem for Gavin Newsom is that he can't slick talk his way out of his record. He can't, right? His record is terrible. It's when it comes to this issue, when it comes to the economy in California, when it comes to schooling, when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to crime, when it comes to every major issue that you could think of, Gavin Newsom is a disaster. He's an absolute disaster. He oversaw the mass exodus of Californians to red states. He oversaw that. That's his legacy. People left California because of Gavin Newsom. They evacuated, okay? There were whole movements that were started because his state is governed that badly. So you can't run away from that. You can try to finesse and snake oil salesman your way. You can try to thread the needle. But to people with common sense that are actually paying attention, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But at the same time, what the liberals don't understand that are outraged about this, again, is that Gavin Newsom is fake. He doesn't really believe that. He's just saying it. He's a far leftist, just like you liberals, right? Again, look at his record in California. Okay, it's the most progressive state in the union. How can the left be mad at Gavin Newsom? We know who he is. But you got to understand the game. There is no Democrat that is going to win, not right now, not the way that things stand, there's no Democrat that is going to win embracing the far left woke agenda. They're not going to. They can't. And Gavin Newsom, who is much smarter than the rest of the Democrat Party, he knows that. He knows that, all right, I got to go ahead and start pivoting right now on this issue to make it seem more sincere. And I'm going to do it in a podcast form, right? So that, again, it seems more sincere than it is, right? He's not sincere about this. But again, the leftists, the liberals are too stupid to understand that Gavin Newsom is just playing the game. Because you're not going to be able to run a far left progressive. A far left progressive is not going to win unless Trump completely and totally just lays an egg, right? Worst president ever. Then, yeah, maybe a far left progressive will have a chance, but I wouldn't bank on that, right? If I was a Democrat, I would not bank on that. I would not chance that, okay? So, yes, the Democrats need a moderate, but Gavin Newsom is not a moderate. He's not the guy. He's not going to fool conservatives. And liberals are upset. And the fact that they're upset with what he said, and he didn't even say that much. He didn't commit to anything. He greased his way through the answer, right? That's what he did. He didn't commit to anything at all. The fact that they're upset about that, again, is doomsday for the Democrat Party, right? Because a moderate can't win in the Democrat primary. Apparently not, okay? Apparently they're not going to be able to win in the Democrat primary. Can a moderate win in the Democrat primary? That's going to be the question. If the Democrat Party is that extreme, if they're that extreme, then, again, they're going to have lunatics become the leader of their party. And it seems as if that's the direction that the base, the loudest in the Democrats, that's the direction that they want to head in. That's the direction. So who knows? Maybe it's just a loud minority of voters who care about this issue, but I can't tell because, again, Democrats are scared to death to move to the middle on this issue, right? And again, they can't have what is happening right now with Gavin Newsom. He's not going to cut it, right? He can't be the guy. His record is too bad, right? They're going to have to find a Democrat that's actually sincere about it, that's not just doing it as a political game. That, I mean, clearly people can see through, which is exactly what's happening with Gavin Newsom. So, hey, like I said, this transformation or this pivot from Gavin Newsom is totally fake. He's doing it because he wants to run for president. However, people know who he is. Okay, everybody knows he's a snake. Okay, he's a used car salesman type of guy. Okay, so we know what he's selling to us is some BS. But the left wing outrage means that it's going to be very difficult for Democrats to distance themselves on this issue, which is something they desperately need to do if they want a chance of winning over the same people in this country. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.